Developers voted. These 4 AI tools connect. API is faster than writing a single webhook manually. Still doing it alone? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which AI agents are handling authentication, rate limits, and error handling while you ship features. Because here's what nobody's saying out loud. The gap isn't between developers who use AI and developers who don't anymore. That happened 2 years ago. The gap now is between developers who treat I like a fancy autocomplete, a slightly better search engine, something that suggests the next line, while they're still doing all the architectural thinking, and developers who've turned it into their integration team. Developers who've realized these tools aren't assistants anymore. They're specialists that have ingested thousands of API patterns, and remember, every painful lesson that the rest of us learned the hard way. Dr. Silas Venn told me something last month that made my stomach drop. He said the average senior developer at a top firm is now shipping API integrations 5 times faster than they were in 2024. 5 times. Not because they're smarter, not because APIs got easier, not because the documentation improved or the authentication flows became simpler, because they stopped writing boilerplate and started orchestrating AI agents that already know every OAuth flow, every REST convention, every GraphQL edge case. They've memorized the quirks of Stripe's API versioning, the subtle differences between how AWS and Google Cloud handle pagination, the specific header configuration that Salesforce needs, or it silently fails. You know that feeling when you're staring at API documentation at 11 p.m., trying to figure out why your webhook keeps timing out, and you're thinking there has to be a better way? There is. And while you're reading Stack Overflow threads from 2022, other developers are using AI tools that read the docs, write the integration code, test the error cases, and flag the security issues before you've finished your coffee. They're not smarter than you. They're not more experienced. They just stopped fighting battles that have already been won by pattern recognition at scale. The opportunity here is bigger than you think, because this isn't about writing code faster. It's about reclaiming the 8 to 12 hours a week you currently spend on integration grunt work, authentication flows, parsing API responses, handling rate limits, retry logic, error messages that make no sense until you've burned 3 hours debugging, figuring out why the sandbox environment behaves differently than production, discovering that the API documentation was last updated 18 months ago, and 3 breaking changes happened since then. AI tools don't just speed that up. They make it invisible. You describe what you need. They handle the rest. They've already encountered the gotchas. And if you're not using them yet, you're not just slower. You're spending your cognitive energy on problems that have already been solved. You're manually building what could be generated. You're debugging issues that AI tools have seen 1,000 times before. Let me show you what this looks like in the real world. Maya Chen works at a logistics startup. Small team, big ambitions. Way too many third-party APIs to integrate. Shipping providers, payment processors, inventory systems, customer notification platforms. Every new integration used to take her team 3 to 5 days. Read the docs, set up authentication, write the wrapper functions, test everything, debug the weird edge cases that always show up. The cases that aren't in the documentation that you only discover when real data hits your system. 3 months ago, she tried something different. They needed to integrate a new customs documentation API. Normally, Maya would block out a week. Budget time for the unexpected, because there's always something unexpected. A required header that's only mentioned in a GitHub issue from 2 years ago. A timestamp format that's technically valid but breaks their parser. Instead, she opened Cursor AI and described what she needed in plain English. Not pseudocode, not detailed specs, just, I need to connect to the Customs Flow API, authenticate with OAuth 2.0, and pull shipment documents for any order with an international destination. Cursor generated the entire integration scaffold in 90 seconds. Authentication flow, error handling, rate limit detection, type-safe request builders, even suggested retry logic for transient failures. It included fallback mechanisms for when the API was under maintenance. It structured the response parsing to handle missing fields gracefully. Maya's first reaction? Suspicion, because when something works that fast, your brain assumes it cut corners. So she tested it. She threw edge cases at it, expired tokens, malformed responses, network timeouts. The AI-generated code handled all of it. Not perfectly, but better than her first drafts usually did. Better than the code she would have written when she was rushing to meet the deadline and telling herself she'd come back and add proper error handling later. What used to take 3 days took 40 minutes. But here's the part that changed everything for her. It wasn't just speed, it was the mental space. Instead of burning cognitive energy, remembering OAuth flows, and parsing JSON errors, she was thinking about the actual product, how the integration could improve the user experience, what data they could surface that customers actually cared about, which metrics would actually help their users make better decisions instead of just adding more noise to an already overwhelming dashboard. She told me it felt like waking up from a fog. Like she'd been carrying cognitive weight she didn't realize was there until it disappeared. The 4 tools developers ranked highest this year: Cursor AI for integration scaffolding, Pieces for context-aware API snippet generation, GitHub Copilot Workspace for end-to-end testing flows, and Zap Engineer, which is wild because it's not even a coding tool. It's an AI that reads API docs and builds Zapier-style workflows that generate production-ready code. They all do slightly different things, but the pattern is the same. You describe the outcome. They handle the implementation. You review, refine, ship. Think of it like this. Writing API integrations used to be like building furniture from scratch. You needed to know joinery, finishing, measurements, materials. Now it's like IKEA, except the instructions write themselves, and the furniture assembles itself while you watch. You still need to know what good furniture looks like. You still make the design decisions. But you're not cutting wood anymore. You're not sanding edges or mixing finishes. Here's what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes. Open Cursor AI. Pick one API integration you've been putting off because it feels tedious. Describe what you need in 1 paragraph. Natural language. Then watch what it generates. Don't use it in production yet. Just see what's possible. See how much of the tedious part disappears. That's it. 1 integration. 5 minutes. You'll know immediately if this changes your workflow. You're not behind. But after the next video, you will be if you wait.